Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thank you guys for joining me. I'm excited to be back. Happy Thursday. Got another video for you guys taking a look at this continuation of planets moving through Aquarius over the next week or two. And this video is going to be on the Mercury Cazimi and the Mercury in Aquarius transit. Now, if you guys like my videos, you want to see more of them, click the bell button below, subscribe to the channel. It helps the channel grow. And make sure you guys give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Consider dropping your rising sign in the comments and let me know what epiphanies or surprising information comes up for you guys throughout this transit. Obviously, I appreciate any interaction. I do read your guys' comments. I get back to them as I can, but I think this is going to be a jaw-dropping transit. Now we'll be taking a deep dive and kind of discussing the themes of Mercury in Aquarius. We're also going to be really talking about that really powerful Mercury Cazimi, where Mercury is going to make the superior conjunction to the Sun and also coming into conjunction with Pluto. Now this transit is going to be kicking off on January the 20th, 2026, and it's going to be going until February 6th, 2026, when Mercury then moves into Pisces. This is a fast forward thinking, very innovative vibe, especially being in the fixed air sign of Aquarius. Probably as an astrologer, one of my favorite placements for Mercury to be. Now, for those of you guys who are wondering how you're going to be affected, stay tuned to the end of the video. I'll take you through the 12 rising signs and talk about some of the effects of this transit and what to watch for. Honestly, in January and February, we can't not be aware of what's going on in the Aquarius area of our chart. So pull out your charts, whether you guys have it in an app or you've got it on software or print it out old school, so you can see where Mercury is kind of moving through. Now, as for who this is going to impact the most, those of you guys who are ruled by Mercury. So if you are a Gemini or a Virgo rising, your chart ruler is on the move. So you're going to want to watch for that, but also my Aquarius and Aquarius risings. This will be impacting you big time because you're going to find that it's moving through your first house. So you guys are kind of getting the megaphone. Obviously, Capricorn's going to be kind of passing that to you guys. And in your sign, it's all about your identity and your mindset. It's also about big transformations in how you kind of present yourself to the world. And you're getting some kind of major upgrades. I think you guys are going to enjoy that. Now we know at this point that Mercury has a connection and correlation with anything that deals with communication, right? So this could be laptops, computers, media, phones, text messages, emails, and it's strongly associated with intellect. So oftentimes with Mercury transits, we're going to see the themes of maybe short distance trips, maybe we're dealing with siblings, signing contracts, maybe we're giving lectures, or we're really focusing on business. So when we're looking at this planet, it's about the day-to-day flow of information. And in the sign of Aquarius, which is fixed air, the energy is going to be very detached, right? This is a little bit more aloof, more focused on the science, the facts, and anything that deals with the future, as well as the internet and humanity. I find Mercury in this sign can be particularly genius. I really like watching it go through the skies because I feel like all of us kind of are able to take a step back and be a little bit more detached and also maybe a little bit more conspiracy-esque. So get your guys' tin hats ready for this one. Something that's important to think about is that Mercury has a connection and correlation with the South Node in Virgo. Okay, so as we're watching the South Node continue on until summer of 2026, whenever Mercury is kind of making aspects in the sky or changing signs, it's going to be kind of reverberating off of that Virgo energy. So basically from January of 2025 all the way until mid-2026, Mercury transits are definitely going to show us, okay, where there is some karma that is coming up, because the South Node can be about karma. It's also about this karmic pull to release old Virgo kind of tendencies with the South Node. So overanalysis, perfectionism, nitpicking, health issues, anything that's also kind of connected to maybe being hypercritical or honestly just worrisome. I think especially when it comes to our daily habits as well as our work, maybe our relationship to our coworkers or even our pets. And obviously this is a sign that deals with service. You're going to hear a lot about service industry, changes with services online, changes with internet services, And honestly, the internet is going to be ablaze throughout this transit. It's kind of hard not to, as Mercury is having to kind of come into this Cazimi. So there's going to be some kind of jaw-dropping news or something that's going to be exposed. Then we're going to see it meet with Pluto. Now, also, we look at Uranus as the dispositor of basically any planet that's going to be moving through Aquarius during this period. So if you guys caught my video on Tuesday, that was kind of like my introductory of kind of encapsulating all of the planets moving through Aquarius. Now, video by video, I'm going to be breaking this down, and you guys are actually going to be getting Mars in Aquarius for the astro weather. So that'll be the next one. But this is a little different, right? So Mercury having that connection not only to the South Node where there is this release, okay? So we're going to hear probably about a lot of big companies that are going to be releasing jobs, or they're going to be cutting jobs. We might also hear about there's going to be some big changes to power companies, internet providers, anything that's also dealing with probably people just kind of feeling like they're losing their mind online, honestly. And that connection to Uranus and Taurus is really important because that is the modern day ruler of Aquarius. So right now it's retrograde in Taurus. As the dispositor, basically Uranus is adding a little bit more of this kind of internalized layer of disruption around Taurus related things. Being that it's retrograde, it has yet to be revealed. But trust me, as we get into February, you guys are going to start to see some of these big shocking surprises and changes with Uranus themes. So we're going to be maybe reviewing, or we're kind of stuck in material comfort zones. We're reviewing anything that deals with food, deals with the monetary system, banking, bond markets. And obviously, I think a lot of it's going to be connected to rare earth materials. So there's going to be a lot of analysis that's coming up that's talking about, well, what is actually valuable? Whether that's going to be gas and oil or connections to hard metals. So certainly gold and silver are going to get quite a bit of recognition, I think, throughout this transit. And Mercury deals with, analysis, or people who are kind of looking at facts and figures or charts. It can also be talking about the overall value and usability of some of these materials and why they would potentially be so valuable, because they would be necessary for technology. So we're not just talking about gold and silver. We're probably going to be hearing a lot of jaw-dropping predictions and major kind of futuristic utilization for tokenization of assets and anything connected to cryptocurrencies. So it's definitely going to be shaking up, I think, a lot of those areas throughout the next month. Now, the themes of this transit with Mercury and Aquarius that I do like is revolutionary thinking, right? I think that Aquarius kind of has this reputation for going against the grain and being an individual, or being different, or being more future-minded. And I love that Mercury and Aquarius, especially with that conjunction to Pluto and the Sun, is going to be kind of like, I'm never going to surrender, or I'm never going to believe, or I'm never going to let go of these certain kind of rigid mindsets, or these fixated mindsets. And we're really going to be asked to reevaluate, are some of the things that we've been told by the media conspiracy, or are they real, and are they being revealed and kind of either adopted by the mainstream, or are they going to be exposed to be something that is fraudulent? The jury's still out on that. Definitely every year when I see these transits, I kind of chuckle because we see some real kind of fringe groups that kind of come up online. But it's positive because in the day-to-day world, we can use this as an opportunity to really have a breakthrough when it comes to our ideas. And I think a lot of that is because you're going to see the Cazimi. So it's almost like Mercury is kind of dying off and then being reborn in the heart of the sun. And also that conjunction to Pluto, which is really asking us to dig deep, look for facts, look for information, and probably going to be some really brave independent media and outlets who are going to be exposing a lot of information in regards to crime, corruption, maybe things that are kind of connected to, service, and that could be health services, that could be food service, that could be anything connected to civil servants, and obviously a lot of political scandals being in the sign of Aquarius as well. I love that it's known for its detached kind of objectivity. It can have this kind of airy aloofness about it where it's trying to be neutral. It's not trying to kind of go along with the crowd. It's willing to kind of say things that can be out of the box and be really thinking about what's going to be best for everyone. It's not so much about whether it's right or wrong. It's not so much about whether or not it's kind of playing favorites. It's just really kind of matter of fact and putting stuff out into the airwaves. This might also start to bring like a real uptick in certain social media platforms or anything that's going to be connected with radio. So we might see that there's going to be a bit of like a revival, I think, with radio over this year, especially as we get ready to get into the spring and we see Uranus go into Gemini. Certainly, probably, I mean, yeah, you've got people who have radio stations that are going to have sponsors and all that jazz, but independent media, independent platforms, independent streaming, and people who may have radio stations that are going to have less pressure from some of the big corporations, and they're going to have the ability to speak their mind. So we're going to start to see this kind of be, I think, a revival over the next couple of months, which is quite exciting. Group collaboration is also a theme, especially group meetings or social connections, being able to put your head together with other people and come up with some creative solutions for the future. I think that's going to be a big one. So we might see a lot of collaborations and mergers, especially happening in the tech world. And so we know that because Mercury can be media and systems, Pluto and the sun moving through some of these conjunctions too could represent some big announcements about some mergers and collaborations with people in the tech world that are going to be getting involved in politics, or they're going to be getting involved in freer information, or anything that's going to be about revealing some kind of political scandals as well. So you'll see a lot of tech, you're going to see a lot of like AI buzz, a lot of social media buzz, and also masses of people that are going to be discussing and talking about some of the economic and financial instability, which will be playing out throughout really the end of January into February. And honestly, everybody's going to have an opinion. Some of them are going to be quite extreme. Others are going to be actually pretty well founded. And Mercury's got a kind of reputation for being connected with forecasting and divination. So you're going to hear astrology be a huge buzz, even if you're, not a traditional kind of astrologer kind of person. If you're somebody who's watching the news or maybe you're seeing social media, astrology is going to start becoming a little bit more mainstream over the next month or two. And a lot of people are going to be making some crazy predictions, and you're going to see a lot of articles and interviews about things that we're predicting, especially in regards to changes with the markets and what's going to happening economically. Now, this is great for anything that deals with getting involved with a cause that you love, getting involved with anything that's about supporting the masses, anything that's connected to humanitarian kind of communications. And I think the key that you guys really want to remember, because it is connected to the South Node, is that we are still being asked to let go of this rigid kind of mental communication, friction. And if we are used to being in a negative kind of thought loop, if we're used to maybe perpetuating, oh my God, doom and gloom, it's the end of the world. If we are surrounding ourselves with friends, social connections, even too much social media, we might feel like we are just like mentally drained. And we may have to kind of recognize and realize what is not the healthiest habits or patterns, and where are we potentially being a little too extreme. Now, as we are building towards this, obviously I know a lot of you guys are going to be watching a couple days prior. I wanted to get ahead of this because we have so many transits happening this week that I need to kind of create videos a little bit early, and you'll see more that's going to come out on Sunday. So this is kind of ahead of the curve, how appropriate with planets going through Aquarius. But there is this stellium that is going to be building up in Aquarius after this incoming new moon in Capricorn that we're going to see around the 18th or the 19th of this month. So really, this energy is not kind of kicking off until we are getting to about January the 20th. So if you look at the clock that I have on the chart, we're a couple days early. Now, something that I think is very important is the fact that we are going to see a Mercury Cazimi. So as you guys can see, the sun is going to be ingressing with Mercury the same day. So at the start of Aquarius season, sun ingresses into Aquarius, highlighting that for the next couple of weeks. Mercury is moving side by side, okay? So it's gonna be kind of combust here for the next couple of days as Mercury is moving underneath the beams of the sun. So we're gonna feel like the Capricorn area of our chart is getting blown out. We have the Capricorn new moon in the late degrees of Capricorn. Then we get to the 20th and Mercury and the sun move into Aquarius. And it's almost impossible not to see what's going on this day because we've got Mars, Mercury, Sun, Venus, Pluto, the moon moving through Aquarius. So we are going to definitely feel that shift in a very big way. But because I said Mercury deals with divination and forecasting, I think that it's going to be kind of more or less starting to give us some of the predictions and the themes of what's going to come about when Mars comes into conjunction with Pluto, which will happen a couple days later. Now, the Cazimi is going to happen on the 21st. This is going to be when Mercury makes the superior conjunction with the Sun. So we're going to see it moving side by side around 0 degrees, which is always a potent energy in astrology because 0 is kind of like the seed or like the new beginning. And some astrologers view that as almost like the truest kind of essence of that particular sign. Then we're going to see on the 21st, Mercury pulls ahead of the Sun, and this is going to be the superior conjunction, the Cazimi, in Aquarius. So if you happen to have anything 0 to about 2 degrees of Aquarius, this is going to be really prominent. It's also going to be very prominent for those of you guys who are either ruled by Mercury or those of you guys who are Leo or Aquarius risings. As it's kind of happening in the sign of Aquarius, it's very personal for you guys. And also Leo, you're ruled by the Sun, so this is going to be a biggie for you as well. Well, I love Cazimis. I was born under one. I find that it's always... It keeps me very curious. I'm always kind of looking for like the deeper kind of like meanings of stuff. I get a real kick out of Mercury Cazimis, which we have several times a year, where Mercury can kind of play tricks, and you'll kind of see that he'll kind of come in and he'll give you signs and symbols and omens. So personally in my life, I've seen it materialize as, you know, I'm flipping through a book, I put my finger on a page, and it just so happens to give me the exact insight that I need at that moment in time for my life. Sometimes it materializes as precognitive dreams. Others, I see number sequences or license plates. It can even mean that this is something that's just about having some kind of channeled download. So I think kind of collectively with the Cazimi that's happening in Aquarius, there is going to be some massive download that a lot of us are going to be having. So you want to really pay attention, pull out your red markers, circle the 21st of January, because this is the day that you want to be tapped in, watching for where Mercury is going to be trying to kind of connect with you and bring you a message. Now, the Cazimi means that it's within the heart of the Sun, so it has to be within about a 17-minute degree orb. Some astrologers will work with up to about a 1-degree orb. And a Cazimi is a rebirth. So we have seen this kind of recently in Capricorn, Mars Cazimi, Venus Cazimi. Now we've got another one that's going to be happening in Aquarius, traditionally a Saturn-based sign. So it does have similar themes of that Saturn, Neptune, what is being revealed, what is being dissolved, perhaps what's been kind of hidden or what we have been unaware of. And now it is meaning business because it's happening at a 1 degree. Now we know in astrology, ones deal with Aries energy. So it can be about military mobilization, taking swift action. On a personal level, it can mean that this is where we feel connected to what's going on in like the universe, or what we're kind of connecting to as a species, or maybe there is going to be some kind of news that's going to be breaking on the internet that's going to impact everybody on an individual level. I do think it's great for the kind of the purification themes of you know, the connection to the South Node, because we see like Mercury kind of getting burned up with the Sun, that it almost has to die, and then we have to be open to maybe a new way of thinking. Maybe it's going to be an identity rebirth. It can also mean that this is symbolizing some really significant incoming change with leadership. So we can see that there is a very prominent death that is going to be happening in the next couple of days after this conjunction. Venus also made the conjunction just prior, so it's kind of hard to say if it's going to be a prominent woman or if it's going to be more connected to kind of like financial or sexual scandals. But usually when we see the Sun-Pluto conjunction, we hear about a major scandal with a CEO or a leader. We can also hear that there is the death of a star or a very kind of famous person. And I think with like Mercury and Pluto coming into conjunction and the Cazimi taking place, likely it's going to be something involving either a politician or a major tech kind of billionaire, potentially somebody stepping down from a major company, or a like somebody who is a news anchor, or it could be connected to like a massive scandal in regards to like a group. So for example, I think about how all of these planets going through Aquarius represent like a panel or a group of people who are potentially meeting. So think of things like what's going on in Davos in Switzerland, what's going to be going on with major meetings of like think tank groups, where there's going to be some potential meetings and mergers between major companies. It could also mean that there is a journalist that's potentially under fire or potentially threatened, or somebody who's got some real kind of damaging information, or they're about to do an expose, but they wind up dead. So obviously I hope that's not the case, but that's kind of my interpretation, especially if you've got people who are digging into financial or sexual crimes. So my eyes are going to be on anything that's dealing with big bankers, central banking, and also potentially like a royal family scandal, because the Pluto Sun conjunction is going to be happening as well. Now, because Mercury gets purified, he then gets illuminated. So it's going to kind of bring forth this fresh new kind of ideas. It's going to be ideas that are going to be hitting like lightning, and divine downloads, and I think genius level insights. So being that it's happening around 1 degree, it means that there's going to be a quick kind of idea or concept that's going to be coming in, or there's going to be a download or some information that is likely predicting some of the things that are going to be coming later into February as we see planets come into a square with Uranus and Taurus, creating that pressure on the financial system and making Uranus wake up. Now, let's take a look at the Sabian symbol for this one. So we're going to actually be reading 2. So somebody asked recently, I've heard a couple of people ask, they say, why do you round up? So if you guys look at this, the Cazimi is going to be happening around 1 degree and 40 minutes. So it's not exactly 1 degree. So therefore we have to round up. We're going to read 2 because it's already past 1. I know, sounds kind of crazy, but you can read the first, the second, and the third degree. It may kind of connect and correlate, but I recommend reading Aquarius 2. And it's appropriate. Aquarius 2 is an unexpected thunderstorm. The keyword is accident. So the theme is the probability of the improbable. The symbol speaks to potential and the fact that there are some things in life that individuals simply can't control. It also speaks to the natural inclination of all situations and eventually a climax in one form or another. The image of an unexpected thunderstorm emphasizes the necessity of each individual to develop a sensitivity to changing conditions and be consciously aware and responsible for his own role in the scheme of things. There are no accidents. Implicit in this symbol is an inclination that people in crisis come together for mutual support. On a practical level, the symbol can indicate a buildup of tension that results in an unexpected drama or plans washing out. It can also indicate a crisis in some situation or relationship that results in catharsis and cleansing. At its highest, the symbol represents the ability to take charge in a confusing and highly charged situation to bring things to an orderly and profitable conclusion. Watch for negative outbursts, temper tantrums, and troublemaking. The accent is on surprises, unexpected events, and things that may not turn out the way you planned. Situations could be reaching a boiling point and emotions will run high. Your greatest advantage lies in making the best of the situation. Remind yourself this too shall pass and work with others to do what needs to be done. Guard against allowing yourself to get carried away by your sentiment or feelings. Be careful not to let someone get your goat and prod you into losing your temper. Stepping stones are surprises, chance, unanticipated happenings, plans washing out, tension release, quickening catharsis, cleansing, emotional outbursts, instability, misadventure, crisis, emergency, happenstance, and drama. Well, Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. It deals with lightning, right? So we all know, the odds of lightning striking something and then striking something twice is pretty rare and unusual. At the end of January, especially when these transits start hitting, expect the unexpected. And personally, I can tell you, this is right around my sun moon midpoint. I've had Pluto kind of going through there, and they've had a couple situations the last year or two. I'm like, how did that happen? Or that's not possible. Or how is this happening? And it happens. The positive is that it is in a sign that is superior to Uranus. So it's basically saying, hey, ready or not, here we come. There is change that's on the horizon. As a collective, we have to get behind it. We have to recognize that we need to do this so that way we can have more stability in the long term. Now, in order to do that, there's a clash. There's a clash of values, there's a clash of beliefs, there's also a clash of political opinions. But in the end, regardless of all of those sides that we kind of pick, we're all humans. We're all part of the collective together. We all actually need this evolution, and it looks like it's going to be a little uncomfortable, and it's going to be about revealing some shocking, shocking truths. Now, I think this symbol overall, obviously with that kind of like energy with a lightning kind of striking, it's this buildup, this charge that happens in the sky, and then you don't really see it coming. Well, obviously this is about sudden and dramatic release, right? So it could be emotional or mental storms that clear the air, things that shock us awake, and bringing kind of like this fertilization for new growth. Rain produces that growth. Everything's charged in the air. It actually creates this environment that's really good for the soil. It's good for the plants, and then everything kind of starts to grow. So if we apply it to this transit, it's about expecting flashes of surprises or potentially insight that feels electric. And yes, for some of us, it can feel disruptive and not the best timing. But ultimately, I think it is liberating, and old mental patterns, especially with that tie to the South Node in Virgo of needing to be perfect, or maybe, you know, releasing our jobs, or how we're kind of talking about how innovations in tech or AI are impacting our jobs, is going to come up. Now, it is going to get washed away, I think, in a burst of Aquarian innovation. So there's no stopping this train, especially when we think of Virgo being the service industry, anything that deals with health, things that are also kind of connected to people who serve us in an institutional way. It can also mean that there is about to be like a massive clearing that's going to be happening with organized bodies of government. I think that's something else that we're going to be kind of happening as well. And we think about some of the connections that's been coming up recently. You know, Virgo can be who washes the car, who watches the kids, who, you know, cleans the house, who also provides some kind of service or help, when in reality, I think some of these conjunctions to Pluto, especially Mercury, is saying there's about to be a bunch of money removed from certain services. So it could be connected to healthcare, it could be connected to job support, it could be connected to, you know, getting some kind of like food stamps or support with childcare. And I think we are going to be hearing this in the next couple of weeks. Obviously, the conjunction to Pluto adds an even intense, more so intense kind of element to that. So I work with about a 2-degree orb. So when this is happening, we also see Mercury then heading towards Pluto. So there's going to be something that's going to come out, it's going to be released. And then we see Mercury come into conjunction with Pluto, which is going to be at a 3. A Gemini degree, and you'll see a lot of conjunctions in Gemini degrees that are going to happen throughout the entire kind of Aquarius season. Wow, makes it extra intense because of that applying conjunction that'll happen on the 22nd of January. Now, Mercury hits Pluto every year. That's not rare, but the fact that it's happening with the sun seems to be implying that there's about to be a massive change or threat to some person who's in a position of power, or they're making some jaw-dropping kind of statements or announcements. And my mind, you know, throughout the last 2 years of these kind of Pluto and Aquarius transits, it's always been about big tech bros, you know, and what's going on with like the crypto world, or what kind of drama is playing out on the political stage. I think that this is really highlighting where Pluto is saying, well, look, you know, in order to pass through my gates, you know, you have to change, or you have to transform something, or you have to admit something, or there needs to be some kind of scandal, or there needs to be some kind of dirty secret that you have to give me. So I'm wondering, is there going to be some kind of like an exchange that's going to happen where a government's working, you know, with a big time person who could potentially be involved in the crime world, or somebody who has committed political crimes, and they're talking about, you know, brokering a deal, and if you sell so-and-so out, then we're going to protect you. That kind of stuff can start happening. We can also see that there is like this death and rebirth of the mind. So yes, we're going to probably have some really intense conversations, or we're going to become aware of some really kind of jaw-dropping situation. And then we start to transform, really preparing for obviously the Sun conjunct Pluto, also Mars conjunct Pluto, which will soon follow. Conversations can be exposing also where we are obsessive, or where we are digging for too much information. And I think with Mercury Pluto conjunct, it's very much like curiosity can kill the cat. You may have strong impulses or intuitive kind of feelings or thoughts, and you go digging for something, and then you find it. And at a 3, it could be the text message, the document, the email. You know, it's also exposing something maybe about our vulnerabilities when it comes to the cloud and anything kind of connected to the internet. But ultimately, even though it's going to feel a little grim, really it's about empowerment, and it's through this like radical honesty and this collective evolution that kind of comes out, because Pluto wants to kind of purge, get out all of the facts and the figures, get it out into the open. And wow, it's going to be quite quite a thing to watch here. So let's take you guys through the transits of Mercury and Aquarius. You guys can also find these dates down below in the description. So if you want to see when Mercury is making some real hot aspects, you can see what to expect day by day. Some of these transits are moving very similarly to like the Sun-Pluto conjunction, the Mars-Pluto conjunction, and then we're also going to see in February a solar eclipse. So honestly, yes, the day by day matters, but because we have so many planets moving so closely, making similar aspects, like sextiles to Chiron, right? We're also seeing quincunx to Jupiter. We're also going to see at the end of the Aquarius transit squares to Uranus. They all kind of get bundled up together in that stellium. But anyway, if we look at the 20th, this is going to be the day that we see Mercury move into Aquarius. So it hits that 0 degrees very, very early in the day. And as we are kind of waking up, getting into the morning, Mercury moves into that sign. So we're already kind of feeling like mind is on fire, you know, with so many potential changes. Moon's in the same sign and it's going to be squaring Uranus. So it can be highlighting some of the kind of tension in the air revolving around physical or financial things. Positive is that Mercury is really going to be saying, all right, it's time to shift the media, the narrative, our communications with social groups, things that are online, more with innovation. So rather than panic, it's about being like, let's talk about where we're going in the future. Let's be a little detached in the process. And I think what's at least easier about this transit is that Uranus is still retrograde. So it's stationing. It's not actually going to go, you know, further any back by any degrees. And we'll see that Uranus direct that's going to be happening later on. So it can be implying that, hey, there's about to be some big economic shift or a big banking shift, or we're going to see some monetary changes or changes with central banks, which I know I've been talking about, but it's coming. So it's kind of like getting ahead of the curve, being like the Paul Revere, going like, you know, the British are coming, and not everybody's going to listen. Not everybody's going to hear it. You may also see that there's like some major people in the tech world or in the science world or even in politics that are going to be laying the breadcrumbs. They're going to be telling you and saying the quiet truths out loud, but you have to be able to catch it, okay? So they're probably going to be talking about what's going to be happening with economic policies, what's going to be happening with changes with fossil fuels, what's going to be changing when it comes to kind of green like movements or incentives when it comes to the environment. Also, I think a lot of this is going to be dealing with rare earth minerals. Minerals can have a connection and a correlation to Taurus through the ground. We can also see anything that's connected to Earth can be the South Node in Virgo. And the South Node is where things bottom out. So a lot of you guys have been hearing about the run-up that's been going on with silver. But I think really what we're going to be hearing about is all the other minerals that are really necessary and needed for EVs, for cell phones, for chips, for things that are going to be connected to also building things that's going to help kind of support and boost the economy. And we've had planets that have been going through Capricorn, which you're going to hear is just really kind of about government, but it's actually been more about this government kind of moves and mobilizations that's been happening in other countries, I think connected to mining. So I think a lot of the things in Venezuela are connected to mining and also oil. I think that we're going to see that there's going to be perhaps some shock and shortages that are kind of coming up. So there could be some FOMO if people were not able to get on the silver train or they weren't getting on to certain cryptocurrencies. And then you're going to start to hear the big boys that are going to be like, well, yeah, this is going to be super valuable, or like, this is actually going to be very scarce. And you have to remember when planets are coming into conjunction with Pluto, fear can be a real thing. Like there can be a sense of people getting all freaked out and then making some really erratic decisions with their banking or their finances, like panic buying, panic selling, because they feel like they're going to miss the boat, okay? So on to the 21st, when we see the Cazimi, this is the day that you guys want to watch for Mercury to be playing his little games. And it, like I said, it can be an epiphany or an aha moment that you have. It could be a dream. It could be a podcast that you catch or some kind of something that somebody sounds crazy on TikTok is saying. They're like, oh, the end is near, you know, or oh, this thing is coming, or the whole system's going to blow. But you will see that there is going to be some very prominent people who are analysts who really know what they're talking about, that are going to start to be showing you the signals, being like, hey guys, the ship is going down. And it may not start to get viral until we see Mercury pass Pluto. Now, when it's at the Cazimi point, the positive is that it's really bringing about this kind of brilliant rebirth of ideas. So this is really, as a collective, we can go, yeah, this is a shit show, this is a problem, or, you know, people need to band together, or people need to really start focusing on kind of like this group kind of mindset, and how we can be able to take what is this kind of lightning storm of chaos and turn it into an opportunity, because things are going to be very supercharged. That's going to be hanging around the earliest, I would say, the 21st in the morning until about midday. Pay attention to what is kind of going on out in the world, what people are talking about. Try not to get too attached to anything, because people will get really intense and be digging deep. And we're going to see a lot of, I think, really great independent media that's going to be taking whatever kind of jaw-dropping information that's coming out and digging into it for a couple of days. We have to wait until Mercury passes Pluto. Now, Mercury will then come into a conjunction with Pluto, which is going to be happening on the 22nd. And it starts making that conjunction very early in the morning at a 3. We'll make the conjunction midday on the 22nd. And this is Mercury conjunct Pluto, where Hades and Mercury convene. Fun fact, one of the few deities that could actually go to the underworld and come back was actually Mercury. He was the messenger between the gods. He could go all the way up and hang out with Zeus. He could go all the way downtown and he could hang out with Hades. So he was kind of the go-between. So this is a really cool transit for being able to get some insight or get a peek into what's going on in the underworld, or what is being unearthed. Great day for like those of you guys who practice divination, automatic writing, if you want to do dowsing, if you want to do anything that's about divination that's connected to the air, channeling, mediumship. I mean, you know, Mercury Pluto transits are kind of fun in that sense. You always have kind of one foot in one world and one foot in the other. And this is where we're going to see some jaw-dropping information that's going to be coming out. Revelations, power struggles in communication, exposing hidden truths. Watch for pairs, right? So Gemini degrees out of 3 could mean that there's twins that are making headlines, a brother and sister, a husband and a wife, anything that's kind of dealing with people who can be pairing up or teaming up. So like billionaires that are teaming up to work together, or two prominent, you know, well-known kind of twins, or like I said, a husband and a wife team. Part of me is like, man, are we going to hear something from like the Winklevoss twins? You know, are we going to be hearing something about the Clintons? Is there going to be some big exposure that's going to be going on that's connected to like a royal family, or a prominent son of a king that's making an announcement about his father being ill? Something like that could happen. And also like damning documents. So information that has potentially been hidden that's now starting to emerge. So if you guys are like me, who's been following the many years of the Epstein list, personally, I don't think we'll ever really get that list. And I feel like even if we did, I don't think a lot of these people would do anything about it. But is it possible that there is going to start to be more excerpts and things that have been previously redacted that start to actually see the light of day? Maybe. I think it's more connected to the bankers that are connected to this because of Uranus's association. And also people who are going to be speaking out saying, look, if some of these certain truths get out, the impact that this would have on the markets, the impact that this would have on the economy, some of the banks and also companies and institutions which would be entangled, would be a mess. However, I wonder if there is going to be somebody who's going to be singing like a canary and it's going to be coming out. So we shall see. Now, difficult for communication this day, not my favorite communication day. Also be very careful with anything electrical, like electrical cars. We might be hearing a lot about electrical cars having issues. I've kind of seen that recently in the news where like we're seeing those robo-taxis that are driving the wrong way. I saw one of those in Texas, an article on that happening in Texas recently, or something revolving around like Tesla, or something kind of connected to anything where something is short-circuiting, or there is some kind of like power surge or issues happening with electricity. We'll probably see that, or there could even be some news coming out about like where there is some kind of like electrical fire or some massive thunderstorm, and then there's a fire that can result from that, because we know Uranus in Taurus can be like radically impacting land. get ready, guys, because whether it's going to be crazy storms or tornadoes or things that are connected to windstorms, we could hear that this is like suddenly sweeping the internet, where there's these big storms that are kind of coming up out of the blue. I also think that this is a time that you don't want to go looking for answers that you already know. And you might find that this is a good day to stay off the internet. You're going to see people acting like jackasses on social media. You're going to see people posting things on Facebook and stuff that's going to be highly offensive, angry, violent words, things that are going to be very threatening. And it's going to be about inciting violence in the masses. And I would say, do not engage. A lot of these might actually be artificial because it's connected to Uranus. It might be something that is being planted. We can see a lot of people who are going to be getting rage baited and people who are going to be trying to start movements online, and also a move to be doxing people and exposing people's identity and where they live. Now, we're going to move ahead and we're going to go to the 24th, where Mercury is then going to make its next aspect, and that's going to be the quincunx to the south node. Now, not a big aspect, but still important nevertheless. Let's move this ahead. Is it the 24th? I thought it was. Nope, I take that back. It's going to be the 25th. Yeah, it's going to be the 25th. So in the evening of the 25th, we start to see Mercury in conjunct in quincunx the south node. So that'll be on the 25th. And this is at a 9, this is at a 9. So 9 is going to be about things connected to the rule of law. So we'll be watching the court systems, things that are being overturned, stuff that's kind of connected to the Supreme Court maybe, passports, visas, anything that deals with like immigration or travel. Maybe some electrical issues that is impacting like certain systems and stuff at work, right? We can definitely see that, especially towards the tail end of some of the Mercury transits as it's squaring Uranus. So we can see some glitches and some issues with technology, computers, softwares, all that stuff. But this is a hard to really like see aspect because it's making an inconjunct, which means it's not visible, but like they're kind of making this uncomfortable angle. So when we think about the inconjunct coming up on the 25th, it's basically saying something needs to be adjusted. And what needs to be adjusted is these old critical habits that are kind of clashing with new futuristic thinking and ideas. This is the time to really be kind of consciously releasing the need to feel like we have to be perfect. This is the time to not be criticizing people. This is the time to not be also criticizing people who are servicing us or helping us. I think it's really great for team building because if we're too critical with Virgo, we never really get anything done and we're kind of nitpicking at each other. And instead of like arguing over the trivial details, it's basically saying, let's kind of deal with the problem at hand. Let's focus on what we need to actually correct. How can we be working together as a team? Then the next aspect you're going to see is not until around the 29th. And that's going to be when Mercury is coming into conjunction with Venus. So this is an interesting conjunction. So this seems to imply that this is really going to be about a merger between the head, Mercury, and the heart, Venus in Aquarius. Thankfully, like I said, they're both a little detached. They're both a little aloof. I like Venus in Aquarius for just having more freedom in relationships and also just being a little bit more social and connected and focusing on platonic relationships. But I am anticipating with like the Mercury-Venus conjunction, there can be like a woman making really prominent news out in the world. It can be a news anchor. It can be somebody who's in media. It can also mean that there is some new facts and figures coming out about the economy because of that connection to Uranus, or some changes with banking or things that are going to be potentially connected to there being like a splitting of a system, especially because Gemini represents like 2. And if you look, Uranus is also at a Gemini degree also. And we have Venus in Aquarius, Uranus in Taurus. So we have that mutual reception. So it's saying like the banking system's about to split, or there's about to be new options when it comes to what we have in terms of paying. So I feel like this is going to be a continuation of rolling out where major online platforms, potentially online retailers, are going to be accepting alternative forms of currency. It can also mean that social media is going to be kind of embracing this, or an opportunity to be able to trade or transact peer-to-peer on certain apps. Now, in general, when you have Mercury and Venus in conjunction, it can be a little tricky because we get like the heart and the mind kind of mixed up. So this is almost like, in a way, us going, well, do I want this or do I want that? What is actually most valuable to me? You guys are going to have to decide. You're going to see like that brewing kind of fork in the road where you're going to have to make a decision. But it's positive because Mercury Venus is about beautiful words, beautiful speeches, things that can really kind of inspire other people, writing thank you notes or telling people how you feel. It can also mean that this is a time where there is more harmonious ideas that are kind of arising when it comes to love, money, and values. And certainly social charm really peaks around this time. So if you guys look at what's going on the 29th, the moon is also moving through Gemini. So earlier in the day and even on the 28th, it's trining. So this is a time to like share with your community, post the blogs, launch the websites. It's a good time to send the invitations to the parties, connect with friends, talk to your neighbors. And it's going to be really encouraging people to be like, hey, we're more alike than we are different. How can we mend some of the kind of differences that we've had? How can we find a way to meet in the middle? Now, interestingly enough, like I said, this is a Gemini degree, but the Sabian symbol that we would read would actually be 16 degrees of Aquarius. And I'm going to read it for you guys. And 16 degrees of Aquarius is a big businessman at his desk. The theme is accomplishment. So the theme is an executive, which is also getting highlighted by like the Mars, Pluto, Sun, Pluto stuff. So the symbol speaks to an organization, management, and efficiency at the foundation of personal stability. The stability of any individual to maintain his poise and balance in the midst of crisis or change is dependent upon his ability to remain calm, centered, and keep his priorities in order. The image of a big businessman at his desk suggests an effective decision maker and a project-minded individual who finds his greatest fulfillment in his accomplishments. Here is an individual who is able to hold his place at the top through every unforeseen emergency or calamity by staying focused on the goal at hand and keeping his head about him when everyone else is losing theirs. At its highest, it represents exceptional executive skills and highly developed ability to meet the challenges of life with ever-increasing mastery. Watch for stuffed shirt, pompousness, or a workaholic. The accent is on efficiency. Business affairs and management take top priority. Your greatest advantage lies in getting organized. Document all actions and anything important that happens. Double check your appointment book and pay attention to details. Guard against getting yourself overscheduled or trying to accomplish too much in too little time. Try not to confuse your priorities or neglect your family or friends. The stepping stones are management, achievement, success, work, proficiency, organization, regulation, supervision, administrative, executive skills, competency, expertise, mastery, power, decision-making, and effectiveness. Are we going to be seeing some major announcement because of some crisis? Is it going to be, oh, it's okay, I've handled it, we're handling it, you know, we've got a solution, we've got an idea? Probably, yeah, probably. I mean, just looking at the Mars-Pluto conjunction and like there being some like major potential like turning point that's going to be happening with like economic stability. But Mercury, like I said, was the Paul Revere. You know, days earlier, he was saying, hey, this is happening. Like, pay attention. You know, I'm seeing all of like the red flags that are getting cued. I like the fact that it talks about organization and strategy, but this is about strength in numbers, right? And I think that this can also mean there is some kind of economic crisis or big business crisis. And then suddenly they're like, well, we got to do what we got to do. You know, we're cutting jobs, right? Or we're cutting hours, or, you know, like I've heard a lot of my clients who work in big business and people who have major organizations that are telling me like, you know, it's becoming increasingly more difficult. Prices are going up. We're finding it more difficult to make a profit. Now we're going in the direction of, you know, looking at training half of our staff for, you know, AI or implementing new softwares for management of all kinds. And we're cutting jobs. And I think you're going to hear a lot more of this stuff. And also, I think this is going to be about them coming out and being like, well, this is the future. The downside of like this Aquarius stellium is going to be highlighting a lot of the agendas and the things that you see in, you know, like the BlackRocks, you know, of the world, or the Davoses of the world. You know, this is the future and it's going to be easy and there's going to be solutions and it's going to be great and there's going to be robots and we're going to have less people. I mean, you're going to hear a lot of these people who are basically saying, well, this is the way that the world is going. And yes, it will cause a little bit of tension, but I think at the end of the day, on a personal level, this is more a conjunction that's kind of saying, look, it's really helping us structure new innovative ideas. If we don't like some of the things that are going on, we have to kind of band together, come up with tangible plans, and find ways to build communities, find ways to network, to find solutions for the future. Likely it's going to be through tech, but it's also supposed to be bringing us some kind of freedom. So focus on relationships, team building, communication, coming up with ideas. And also it can be great for like peer-to-peer lending or anything that's connected with new future solutions. So that way we're not as reliant on the banks. Now on the 30th, you're going to see Mercury, quincunx, then Jupiter. So it's coming into an inconjunct or a quincunx with Jupiter, which is honestly going to make everything bigger. And now Jupiter is retrograding Cancer to 17. This is a Leo degree, so it's going to deal with leaders and it's going to deal with the stock market or things that are connected to celebrities or where we're emotionally reacting to some fluctuations or changing, potentially with housing or like the housing market. Now, I think with Jupiter being retrograde, there can be this over-optimism or over-emotional reaction or exaggeration when it comes to news or information. So a lot of people are going to go, how is that impacting, the value of my home? How is that impacting my family? How is this going to be impacting, homeland security? And certainly with all these planets that are going to have to meet up with Pluto here soon, there's going to be a lot of terror threats. There's going to be a lot of threats in public spaces. Also, we're going to be hearing about probably some like major kind of like hacking scandal, or that there is going to potentially be some devastating situations with crowds. It's kind of unavoidable. If you guys go back and you look at when Mars was kind of going through Leo at the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, it was opposing this, right? And then also we have seen other retrogrades that have opposed to this. And every single time we see friction between, authority figures and kind of singular leaders versus what the people want. And those of you guys who are a little bit more forward thinking or liberal. So there's been some kind of tension here. And it's not so much about politics. You'll think that because it's in Aquarius. It's more about where you're seeing masses of people. So you'll see around the world globally that there's going to be people getting in the streets and they're going to be protesting and they're going to be pushing back. But you're also going to see that part of the actual crime, Pluto, is about where there are people who are like protesting extremist views, or they're making threatening kind of comments or statements, or they're kind of forecasting, on the internet, oh, this is going to happen here at this day. They're in turn getting the three-letter agencies involved. So whether that's the FBI, the CIA, and it can also mean that there is some damning information that's coming out also about some of these three-letter agencies, and whether or not there is like espionage going on, or if there is somebody who is an insider who is like funneling information or potentially like threatening the security of a leader. So that'll also be coming up as well. I think that with Mercury, quincunx, Jupiter, you're going to hear a lot of people, though, that are going to be reacting very emotionally, and there's going to be a lot of calls for how this is impacting like laws and regulations for people's homes, their family, and their security. And there is this conflict between being like, okay, well, we're moving forward with like a lot of changes when it comes to new laws, when it comes to how we're going to be seeing government that's going to be kind of like organized, or how they're going to be actually potentially cleaning house. We could see that with this transit. And people are going to be like, what does it mean? Some countries might find themselves in a position where they're in between having a standing government, or having a prime minister, having a president. And on one hand, I think I've seen the oppositions in this last month or two, two planets in Capricorn and the sun and the moon and Jupiter making aspects. There's been a lot of division and kind of mixed, views on this, as we've seen what's happened in Venezuela, right? You see on one hand the Jupiter retrograde, where people are, crying, and they're like, oh, we're being kind of like, saved and we're free now. And then you see also a lot of people who are like, well, you shouldn't be getting involved in other, kind of countries, kind of, political issues, and you shouldn't be kind of acting like a tyrant and getting involved. And so that opposition creates the polarity. Now that we get into Aquarius season, it's in conjuncting and quincunxing this, we actually really start to see, is some of this toppling that's happened in parts of the world of certain government or political figures actually giving power back to the people? That's going to be the real question. And are we going to start to see new types of government, new parties that are being kind of brought together? certainly people are going to feel very inspired to share their beliefs very passionately with Mercury and Venus about the revolution, freedom, the future, you know, decentralization. All of these things are going to be kind of coming up. Really talking about getting money out of politics. Now, if we go to the next transit, I think I would just say on the inconjunct to Jupiter, just know that there's a need to kind of adjust your big ideas and finding ways to kind of focus on nurturing and security needs, but not being too overly emotional about the necessary purge that is taking place. Then we move to the 5th, and this is where things get quite colorful. The 5th of February, where now Mercury is ahead of the charge, so he's kind of like Paul Revere again. And he's coming into a square with Uranus and Taurus. And P.S. guys, at this point in time, Uranus is awake. So it's been pushing all of January into February on Uranus, being like, wake up, show us the instability, show us which way it's going to go, how are things going to split. It sits at a 27, Gemini degree. This sits at a 27, Gemini degree. Venus will come to follow and make the square. Sun will come to follow and make the square with the solar eclipse. Mars will come to follow and make the square. Guys, there is something really big coming. There is something very big coming. And I think that this is like the finale also of having had, you know, obviously Uranus and Taurus. This is the last time we're going to see these squares because it's going to be moving into Gemini in the spring. I think that the positive is that just prior to this, and I think I missed this, hold on a second, we do see the Mercury sextile Chiron. So right here, kind of like the 2nd going into the 3rd, Mercury is sextiling Chiron. So we can heal opportunities, I think, on an individual level through connecting with new networks, maybe through being bold and more honest with our communication. Maybe we're being vulnerable and being honest about, you know, the things that we did not recognize, where we were wrong, where we were kind of hasty or, you know, combative or argumentative. And then on the 5th, then it squares. This is the day that you'll see power outages, you'll see internet surges or things that are going to be like websites that are being, you know, overrun and they're not able to function. This is the day that you feel like you've stuck your finger in a light socket because it's just so much frazzled information all at one time. My eyes are going to be on what's going on with Venus, and Venus is right behind coming into the square. My eyes are also on what's going on with the South Node, and we will see about a day prior or two, the moon was going through a connection with the South Node. So it was already kind of talking about some potential kind of Mercury storm or some kind of breakdown that we were going to see possibly with services or jobs. Now, squares in astrology are hard aspects, right? So we started with the Pluto conjunction and the Cazimi, which was just like, boom, here's the information. What are you going to do with it? Now we're going to put it out into the open and let the masses decide, you know, whether or not it's good or bad. Now it sends the shockwaves throughout the financial system, and it's basically Mercury saying, look, the people are really pushing for some kind of change. And this is going to be representing, I think, where money is being spent. I've said this in a previous video, but vote with your dollar. If you do not want to support certain companies, if you do not believe in their kind of perspectives, their statements, if you do not support some of their political donations or some of their other professional affiliations, do not shop there. Do not buy from there. Buy local. Go and find other companies that are going to align with your values, regardless of what your values are. Your money is going to be what you're voting with. And I really feel like there is going to be another Bud Light moment where some company is going to get canceled, or they're going to be pushing down on probably trying to cancel a bank, or probably trying to move away from a major retailer, potentially moving away from a major food supplier. And obviously this is pressing down for people to be going more in the direction of Uranus and Taurus. So a lot more people are going to be being conservative. A lot more people are going to be talking about farmsteading. They're going to be growing their own food. They're going to be collecting seeds. They're going to be also changing where they're shopping with groceries. Everybody's going to be up in arms about the cost of food. And I think a lot of people are going to be discussing and talking about their relationship to food. So this could mean, hey, I want to, you know, go and do a crowd share or a family share of buying, you know, something from a rancher. It could also mean that you're discussing going and buying larger amounts of food and splitting it with your friends or your family. Maybe this means that you're deciding to nix certain ingredients, or that you're getting rid of sugar, or that you're no longer going to be eating or consuming certain things because of the information that came out behind it. So look at what's happened up until this point. There's been a lot of disclosure about food dyes and how that's connected to autism. There's been a lot of connections also to talking about changes with the schedule for health and wellness. I think we're also going to probably see a lot of people waking up as they're looking at the new food pyramid going, why is there steak and why is there butter at the top of this list? I've been told for the last 30 years not to eat this stuff. Everybody's going to realize that the very things they've told you not to eat are quite literally the healthiest things for you, your cholesterol, and your brain. And it makes you strong. It makes you competent. It makes you, I think, grounded. All of the things that they don't want for, individuals if they want to have control. So I encourage you guys to go learn about some of the stuff that's coming out in the masses, about some of the changes that's going to be happening with, I think, our food, how food is being farmed, where it's coming from, and make sure that you're getting stuff from a good source. And I think there's going to be a lot of information and a lot of sharing about that. Just watching Mercury and Venus go side by side on the within Aquarius. So go and join new food groups. Go and join online groups that's going to talk about nutrition. Go and learn about energy healing, Reiki, sound bowl meditations, binaural beats, all of these vibrational things to support the nervous system. Now, obviously, mental disruptions is likely. There's going to be a difficulty in communication. We might hear that there is a major outage with a particular cell phone company because Gemini is phones. And we can see that on one hand, it can give us flashes of genius under pressure, but on the other, lots of arguments over values and money. This is a day that you do not want to leave money on exchanges. Make sure you guys have your stop losses set up. Make sure you have everything set up in the stock market where if you know that something hits a certain level, you want to sell it. Or if you're waiting to see something going to a certain level and you want to buy it, have all of that stuff ready. In previous videos, when I have seen these squares, I've told you guys there's going to be an issue with an exchange. Every single video, an exchange either went down or they were basically pumping the brakes and not allowing people to be able to get money on or off of exchanges, or people were trying to buy dips and then things were being delayed. So this is a day that you guys want to watch. Expect the unexpected with tech and finances. And also I think the finale is going to be later in the day when Mercury hits 28 degrees. And this is a magical degree because this is the degree where we will have the solar eclipse, which will be coming later in February. So 28 degrees is a Cancer degree. It deals with our emotions. It deals with our home. It deals with our families. It has a direct connection and correlation also to the past. It can also be anything that's associated with women or mothers. And let's see what that means. I haven't even read the Sabian symbol for that yet. I did talk about it in my 2026. So 4 degrees, which is 28. I'm talking about degree theory for those of you guys who are like, what is she saying? The human race, a crowd of people, okay, a nation, patriotism, patriots, homelands, water pools, hometowns, liquid, beer, dairy, houses, homes, flats, family, parents, women, mothers, public opinion. And that's pretty much it. So that's the theme of Aquarius. So I think the public opinion of where things are going in regards to these things. And you're going to hear some really dystopian stuff, especially if you guys are listening what's coming out of the WEF and what they're talking about in Davos, which is we need less people. We need less meat, we're going to have robots. We don't need humans. Everything's going to be fine. And they're going to be kind of trying to convince you that the future is this dystopian nightmare, wrapped up in something shiny and precious. When in reality, I think Uranus and Taurus is people being no, we're not going to eat the bugs. We're not going to eat the fake meat. No, we're resisting that. And also, I think it's about people realizing that they need things that are not synthetic. They need things that are real. Real human connection, real food, right? Real kind of connection to the earth. So it's really important to stay grounded when this is happening. And we're going to read 29 degrees now of Aquarius, which is where it's going to make that conjunction to what will be the Aquarius eclipse. That's going to be happening in mid-February. All right, so let's see. So it'll be 29 that we're going to read. A butterfly emerging from a chrysalis, metamorphosis. The symbol speaks to curiosity and man's quest for knowledge. The image of a butterfly emerging symbolizes transformation and self-renewal, rebirth in a new form, and it alludes to reincarnation, forgetting past life experiences, and lack of intellectual sophistication. The emphasis here is the degree is in innocence and vulnerability. At its highest, it represents delightful sense of wonderment and childlike faith in the ultimate goodness of the world. Difficulty in understanding the simplest things and complete failure to comprehend the relationship between cause and effect. The accent is on unfoldment, the changes in the air, and things are likely to start moving to the next level in this situation. Your greatest advantage lies in being willing to let go of the safe and familiar to allow yourself to enjoy the freedom and create self-experience with new ways of living and doing things. Guard against failure to pay attention to what is going on around you, missing the obvious and the cues that things have changed. Don't wake up too late, unable to do something about a situation, or miss your chance to capitalize on a new opportunity. Creativity, desire, curiosity, self-surrender, renewal, rebirth, aspiration, commencement, transformation, maturation, unfolding, and freedom. What may seem like a crisis, I think, is going to be an opportunity, and it may be difficult for the next year or two. I think just Saturn and Neptune and Aries and a lot of the economic and personal changes that we're going to see. But this is your opportunity to turn what can be a crisis into something that can be absolutely positively liberating. So if you're wanting to kind of have freedom in the Aquarius or in the Taurus area of your chart, I think that's really what it's kind of signaling. And then finally, as we get into February the 6th, we're going to start to see Mercury then move into Pisces. So honestly, Mercury throughout this transit is quite strong. As you guys know, Mercury in Pisces is in its opposite sign of Virgo, so it is a little bit debilitated here. It is not going to have that sense of facts and figures. It's more focused on emotions and intuition, dream interpretation, and Mercury will go retrograde in Pisces at the end of February. So I think this is the time that we're going to have those shocking revelations. And then February into March, we're doing a lot of integration and what does this mean? And we're going to feel like things are kind of falling apart. So what do you want to watch for? Okay. The sudden moments of brilliance, those aha moments, those downloads, or where lightning strikes and it's just boom, intuitively something will feel like it's coming channeled through you. It may mean that it comes through a conversation. It may mean that it's through a friend or through some shocking change. But I do think that it is meant to kind of wake us up and make us realize, whoa, there's a lot more going on here than what we realize, and we need to dig a little bit deeper. Watch for the tech glitches and the breakthroughs. Try to be mindful that some people can be more detached in conversations, and also there can be a sense of feeling like we're really wearing our tinfoil hat. There can be conspiracy theorists gone wild all over the internet. People are going to be more free thinking. We're also going to see group chats and social media going absolutely insane. And I like that the theme of the mental rebellion. I think that could be really good with Mercury going through Aquarius, especially rebelling against old routines, right? Or old power structures or old ways of doing things. Just avoid coming across too cold, too obsessed, or too aloof. And to navigate this transit, you want to journal some of those flashes of genius that potentially kind of come through. This is also great for networking and collaborating. It's going to give us all an opportunity to socialize a little bit more, focus on our connections with our friends, really revitalize some of our goals and also some of our dreams. And I do think that this is great for practicing a little bit more detached observation of our thoughts, because you'll see with Mercury going into the Cazimi and then conjuncting Pluto, somebody prominent is going to step down, or they're going to die, or there's going to be some big political scandal, and then everybody's going to have their conspiracy theory. And I would be like, don't assume anything, let the transit kind of pass and see what transpires. But speak up for your kind of collective causes and release control around details. Don't be critical of friends. Don't also be too negative or kind of doomsday prophesizing about the future, because whatever is going to happen is going to happen. But on a mundane level, generally, I think for the world, we're going to see major tech and AI announcements, particularly around data and surveillance, or anything that's going to be dealing with, digital wallets, digital wealth. We're also going to hear a lot of social media scandals or reforms. Definite collective awakenings around freedom and people being like, wait, what does this mean? Like, what do you mean they're tying something to banking, or that there is going to be these biometrics connected to something else? And definitely some shocking news that's going to definitely shift the public opinion. Humanitarian movements can gain traction, and obviously power struggles being exposed in institutions. That Pluto conjunction is a stinker. It's going to bring some deep systemic revelations across the board. But personally, this can be very mentally liberating. So remember, it's about breaking free from overthinking and maybe stepping into how some of these kind of truths are actually really freeing you to reimagine or rework or reinvent that area of your chart. The Aquarius stellium is strong, so it's amplifying this kind of like invitation to be more innovative and really focus on the house that's going to be kind of hitting you. I'm going to talk to you guys about some of these impacts that's going to be happening with the Mercury aspects for all of the 12 rising signs, kind of really focusing on the Cazimi, the Pluto conjunction, some of the squares to Uranus, which I think is offering for a lot of us like a once in a lifetime mental upgrade, while the square to Uranus in Taurus is bringing unpredictable change. So as a reminder, guys, I'm a Western astrologer. That's the kind of astrology that I like to practice. I'm going to be showing this to you from the perspective of the Western whole sign system. So we'll be looking at this from the perspective of that. Let's bring that up. There we go. And you're going to get the most out of my predictions by listening to your rising sign. So if you don't know that information, head over to astro.com, put in your birth information, time, date of birth, and location. Look at the 9 o'clock hour. That's going to be your ascendant sign. This is the ascendant that you want to be listening to. It's going to determine which kind of direction the planets are moving in zodiacal order, how they're moving in the sky, and which house and which themes are going to be highlighted for you. Obviously, I'm talking to my Aquariuses, my Geminis, and my Virgo risings. You guys are definitely lit up. Leo, you get some of this as well. But if you happen to have anything at 0 to about 4 degrees of the fixed signs, so that could be Taurus, that could be Leo, that could be Scorpio, and Aquarius, you guys are going to be feeling this through the conjunction, opposition, or square. Now, if you're a Placidus user like me and you want to know exactly which house this is happening in, look where you see that about 1 degree, 2 degree of Aquarius. Listen to the rising sign that associates with where that's happening in the houses. You might have to listen to one that's 1 over, okay? So let's do the breakdown for Mercury moving through Aquarius and the Cazimi for the 12 rising signs. We're going to start first with my Aries and Aries risings. Sorry, Aries, I'm looking at all this Aquarius. It's kind of hard not to miss. Well, you're having this Mercury Cazimi in Aquarius taking place in your natal 11th house. And thankfully, Aquarius is a friendly sign for you. So you're fire, it's air, you guys can resonate. And you're kind of preparing because actually Mars is the last planet that's going to come into conjunction with Pluto. So you're starting to see where the collective movement is going. You're starting to see all of the collective waking up, and maybe you've been waiting for this, for some time. Maybe you have felt like the Lone Ranger the last year or so with Saturn and Neptune in your sign. And I think a lot of you guys are going to get really inspired because you're going to start seeing a lot of people kind of getting behind some of the things that you believe in, some of the goals that you have. Now, if we think about Mercury, it has a connection to your 3rd house, which could be communication, siblings, short distance trips, learning, blogging, social media. And it's also connected to your 6th house, which is going to deal with health, healing, and work and daily routine. Now, with Mercury transiting your 11th house, it's basically about kind of, groupthink, meetings, collaborations with friends, social networking, maybe traveling for work. And really what it's highlighting for you is your future goals. And so you're starting to see this kind of happen like in a social sense. And I really would expect a lot of innovative ideas kind of coming through networks. So it could be group meetings at work, it could be traveling, it could be social media, connecting with groups that are going to be about learning, language, or even health. And this is about really releasing the sense of feeling like you need to be perfect in order to make friends. This is also helping you kind of shed old social routines. And I think that Cazimi that's going to happen, plus Pluto, is really about new visions kind of coming online for your dreams, what you're hoping to kind of create and who you're hoping to collaborate with. That square to Uranus means it's also shaking up your income, shaking up your values. So some of you guys may be joining groups that are like talking about farming, talking about homesteading, maybe talking about cryptocurrency, or talking about, certain campaigns and things that are going on that's like really influencing you and how you're spending money, what you're purchasing, and what you're consuming. But watch for some kind of breakthrough I think that you're going to have, where somebody says something that really sparks something and you're like, yes, I believe in that. I can get behind that. And then suddenly you have a cause that you want to join. Good luck, Aries. Let me know what happens. Taurus and Taurus risings. What's up, guys? You're going to have this Mercury Cazimi in Aquarius happening in your natal 10th house. Oh, to be a Taurus rising right now. Well, first of all, the 10th house is the house that deals with your career. Okay, so if you're not working, if you're retired, it's your reputation. It's how people see you out in the world. It's your purpose and when you go out and kind of do. So it could be parenting. It could be being a part of your community, getting involved in city council, maybe making some big changes to your kind of career or reputation. And Mercury is a sign that deals with your second house of money and income. It's also strongly tied to your fifth house of creativity, children, romance, and self-employment. So to watch Mercury go through the 10th house, come into a Cazimi, and also then come into conjunction with Pluto tells me that there's a lot of things that are kind of impacting who you are out in the world. And you might be feeling very vulnerable. You might be feeling very seen. But definitely this is kind of like your moment in the spotlight, Taurus, because as these conjunctions are happening in your 10th house, it's about your career going through some kind of prominent transformation. Perhaps brilliant ideas for professional innovation are coming up, important meetings that can mean making more money, getting creative with how you're expressing yourself professionally, and possibly even being a little bit more innovative when it comes to your career. Now, I would be focusing on releasing over-analysis or feeling like you're not good enough. I think this transformation can be beautiful for you guys, and there can be some really amazing reputation shifts that can be possible. Big negotiations, money-making opportunities, big announcements when it comes to parenting, self-employment, and also relationships. You're already aware of this. Venus has already been kind of conjuncting this, so you kind of got a head start. But certainly down the road, when the squares start happening to Uranus, it's obvious that whatever is kind of changing in your career is going to be happening rapidly. And it's going to be really kind of putting pressure on you, your physical body, and your nervous system. And it's going to be whether or not you can withstand some of the change that's going to be happening in your career. Embrace this, Taurus. It's going to be a really big 2-year period where you're climbing to the top. So even though the pressure is on, I think it's about being open to change. Good luck. Gemini, my Gemini risings, obviously important for you. Mercury is your chart ruler. So this Mercury transit in Aquarius, Mercury Cazimi in the 9th, is friendly as it trines you by sign. So certainly watch the Mercury Cazimi and the Mercury conjunct Pluto. Those will be kind of peak days for you. But Mercury is naturally your ruler. So as it's going through the 9th house, it's highlighting travel, legal matters, education, your beliefs, graduations, working with mentors, teaching, publishing, all of that stuff. It also has a connection to your 4th house of home and family and the transiting south node. So I think a lot of Gemini and Gemini risings are feeling like they need to get out of the house. They want to travel, they want to go on a road trip, they want to fly somewhere, they want to explore other places that they could live. Maybe it means that also there is a sense of connecting with family in other places and really expanding your beliefs about the future. Now, I think there is a big mental reboot that's coming for you guys in the 9th house. I think that there can be this futuristic kind of philosophy that's coming online. Maybe you're learning something new, learning astrology, learning forecasting, learning something about, the markets around the world. And it's really about releasing some of these habits of feeling like you have to play it small, that you have to stay home, that you have to do the kind of usual routine. It's getting out, it's getting about, and it's exploring. And I think we're going to see a lot of this also with Uranus kind of crossing your ascendant later this spring. I love this for releasing rigid daily habits, and I think that Cazimi with the Pluto conjunction is really transforming your worldview in a very profound way. And later on in the transit, when Mercury and Venus conjunct, I think this could be good for some long-distance relationships or some success in teaching or publishing. Gemini, I think you guys are going to like this transit, so you're going to have to let me know what happens. Watch for a major prominent teacher or mentor that can come into your life too, or some kind of graduation or ceremony. Cancer rising, you guys are going to be experiencing a Mercury transit through the sign of Aquarius, moving through your natal 8th house. Now, my Cancers, obviously for you guys, Mercury is going through a house that can be quite emotional, but it's a detached sign. So it's going to be interesting to see how this manifests. The 8th house deals with, well, death, sex, taxes, but it's more than that. It's your psychological kind of whereabouts. It's about research. It's going to be about purging and transformation, deeper intimacy. It can mean that you're doing some kind of reevaluation of your financial situation, dealing with taxes, dealing with debts. It can also mean that there is an opportunity to really purge, like psychologically purge, come into some kind of wealth, make a major kind of investment. And Mercury is tied to your 12th house of the subconscious, what's hidden, and also your hidden talent, as well as the 3rd house of communication, connection, or anything that deals with siblings or learning. So as you start to see Mercury go through your 8th house, as with all planets going through the 8th house, it goes through a purge. So there is a purging effect that's going to happen on how you think, how you communicate, maybe things you've been afraid to admit, things that you've been afraid to kind of talk about. I do believe this can be really beneficial for, deep investigative thinking. It can be good for doing investigations into potential investments, working with a therapist or trauma specialist, and also releasing hidden worries that you've been holding on to that threatens your ability to feel safe and secure. Many Cancer and Cancer risings are going to have very intuitive psychic downloads. And for some of you guys, it's just a feeling. Others, it's a dream. You may feel like you're having some kind of otherworldly contact with, ancestors or relatives. Things can get kind of spooky here, but I do feel like it's trying to kind of help you transform something about the way that you look at your resources. Now, it will all be coming into a square with Uranus and Taurus, so it's also saying it's a big transformation for your friends, your community, maybe even your financial goals. So let me know what happens with this transit. This is going to be an interesting one for you guys. Oh, my Leos and my Leo risings. How are you guys doing? You're not even really to some of these transits yet. You guys are a couple days away. So the conjunctions that are going to be happening to Pluto are going to be pretty significant, especially with Mercury coming into conjunction with the Sun and Pluto. That's going to be a biggie because you're ruled by the Sun. Big life-changing things are going to be happening in relationships. And if you're single, keep your eyes out because you're going to be seeing some very Plutonian or Mercurial figures that are kind of coming into your life. Now, Mercury rules your 2nd house of money, values, and resources. You also have the connection to Gemini, which is through your 11th house of friends, goals, and allies. So as you see Mercury moving through your opposite sign in Aquarius, it means that there's more communication going on with other people. So the 7th house could be your spouse, your partner, even your friends, business partners, your marketplace. It could also be an astrologer that you're talking to or a therapist. So with that connection to your 2nd and your 11th house, you're kind of going, well, what is worth investing in when it comes to relationships? Who is in my corner? Who can I depend on? What do I need to let go of or change when it comes to relationship communication? Watch for some intense relationship conversations. There can be really in-depth one-on-one sessions you can have with a therapist or, like I said, an astrologer. It could also mean that you're releasing this feeling of partners needing to be perfect. Maybe you're transforming something about agreements or contracts. Maybe you're trying to go deep and you're wanting to kind of connect on a much more powerful and profound manner in a relationship. I do think that you're getting your values straight. And for some of you guys, it may feel like if you're not satisfied with the relationships, you're kind of coming to terms with what you do need to say to them, what you do need to be asking of them. And partners can be going through just a lot of intensity right now because of all these planets conjunct Pluto. The Cazimi is very interesting to me for you guys because I feel like there is going to be something revealed about your partner. And it can mean that they're kind of talking to you about their fears, their lack of financial support, their issues with, intimacy or vulnerability. And obviously, it's all going to come into a square with Uranus and Taurus. So it's for a lot of Leo and Leo risings being like, well, I need to change something about my relationship to figure out my career, or, you know, this relationship is ending, so I'm going to be more career oriented, or, you know, in order for me to be able to partner well, maybe it means that I do need to kind of take a break or kind of pivot from what I'm doing professionally, because they're impacting each other. The solar eclipse is coming soon, guys, and so that's also going to kind of further thwart a lot of these changes that are going to be happening in relationships. And I have a feeling like a lot of your relationships are going to start, or friends are going to start kind of giving you like the heads up about being like, yeah, you know, I'm thinking about moving, or I'm contemplating relocating, or there's this change that's going on with my family. And they'll start kind of telling you what direction the relationship is potentially going to be going in. Now, if you're single, watch for the opportune moments to connect with people that can benefit you, not just in a relationship sense, but in a business sense and in a financial sense as well. Good luck. Virgo rising. How are you guys doing? I've been talking to a few Virgo risings that have been crashing out. All right, guys. So you have Mercury, your chart ruler, going through a house that it likes to be in. Let's start there. So even though you're going to see some really intense stuff, I do think this is beneficial for you guys for really getting things on the road when it comes to a huge personal shift with your health, with your work, with your routines. Now, Mercury rules you. So wherever Mercury is going is where you are. Mercury in the 6th house is like, I'm in the office, I'm in the gym, I'm walking the dog, I'm doing the laundry, I'm getting groceries. And you're trying to really focus on revolutionizing, focusing on the future when it comes to your health and everyday routines and habits. Now, remember that it also has a connection to your professional life and your career. So a lot of Virgo and Virgo risings are like, well, there's like new staff coming in, we have a new schedule, I'm working a new job. It can also represent where there's like new tech coming in, or you're just really trying to find a way to kind of get into the swing of having a routine, even if you're not working. The challenge here, Virgo, is that this is going to be very personal for you because Mercury is connected to the South Node. So if you're a reluctant Virgo and Virgo rising who has not wanted to quit smoking, right, because of the conjunction of Pluto, if you are not aware of your communication style, if you are over worrying and overthinking, you are going to find that there is going to be this rude awakening about being like, yeah, this is actually not good for you. It's making it harder for you to kind of get along and work with people. It's making it harder for you to be productive. And it's really about purging old, outdated ways of kind of navigating your life or your habits. Now, obviously, keep an eye on your pets here too, because this deals with pets. It is going to be a Cazimi that you're going to see with the Sun and Mercury and Pluto. And because the Sun is your 12th house and it represents people who are hidden enemies, or it could be people who undermined you. You may be feeling overwhelmed with dealing with certain people in the office space. You might be feeling as if maybe there is somebody who's causing a problem at work. You may also be dealing with a health issue that's connected to your ankles or your calf muscles, your nervous system as well, your tummy as well. But all of this will be coming into a square with Uranus and Taurus, which I actually think is really kind of pushing you guys to start learning more about health and habits. And a lot of you guys are going to be learning about food and your diet. Some of you guys might be using technology to track your steps, track what you're eating, or also apps that track productivity so you can get more stuff done if you would rather be traveling or taking courses or studying. Now, Virgo, major release of your patterns. It's not going to be easy. I think really the rebirth through the Cazimi is about really refining your approach to what it means to be healthy, how can you serve, and also how can you have more time for freedom. Good luck. That's going to be a biggie for you guys. Libra rising. You guys are going to experience Mercury transiting through the sign of Aquarius plus a Cazimi involving Pluto in your 5th house. Obviously, Mercury rules the 12th house of your dreams, your subconscious, what's hidden, what's behind the scenes. It's also connected to the 9th house of education, your beliefs, your philosophy, marketing, anything to do with learning. And you're seeing this happening in a fellow air sign. So if you happen to be Libra or Libra rising, about 0 to 5 degrees, you'll be experiencing some trines. So I do think that this will be easier for you guys. Honestly, Libra, Venus was actually the one leading the kind of the whole herd of planets going through Aquarius. So you probably know better than anybody, you and Taurus, and Aquarius, that the changes are kind of in the air before the rest of the collective kind of picks up on it. And so, you know, watching what happens with Venus coming into conjunction with Pluto, the 18th, the 19th, is something that you really want to pay attention to. And I talked about how on my last week's Astro Weather, to watch what happens on Sunday, that there's going to be something that's going to happen on Sunday that's going to spark some of this revolution through your 5th house. Now, because the 5th house deals with creativity, romance, and fun, you're having to intertwine that to travel or things that are about kind of applying your hidden talents. It could also mean you're kind of going through, you know, hidden spaces, drawers, cabinets, and closets, pulling out things that you used to create and work on. And you're feeling like, oh, okay, this could be exciting. It could be fun, or it could provide an opportunity for travel or for learning. I think for you guys, it's just genius creative ideas. That's really what it is. And it's also about releasing this subconscious fear of, what if nobody likes it? What if it's not good enough? You know, what if it's not perfect? And I would be like, forget that, throw all that out the window, create for the sake of creating, have fun. Because if you can really embrace some of these transits, it's going to be transformative. And it's also going to be about really kind of opening the heart space. You'll see the Cazimi, which is also timed to your 11th house of friends and network. So it's really saying that it's helping you come up with a new hobby, a new creative practice, something that's about getting in touch with your inner child, potentially even your inner artist. So you have something that you can share with other people, and that'll be kind of bridging all the way into this next month. Now, with that being said, as Venus and Mercury go through the 5th house, eventually they're going to come into conjunction. So there's going to be this kind of news or information, or there's going to decision maybe that you're making in regards to romance, children, or creativity. And then it will come into a square with Uranus and Taurus. So it's almost like you're taking chances. You don't know if they're going to pay off. But I think that some of you guys who are willing to get into things that are speculative, so some of you guys will get into crypto trading, some of you guys will get into gambling, some of you guys will just invest in your hobbies in hopes that it's going to kind of make you some extra cash, might actually potentially happen. So be willing to take risks, obviously within reason, both when it comes to love and also your creative sense of self-expression. Very funny. I'm a Libra rising, so I've been pulling all of these things out of my office closet, doing a bunch of inventory, being like, okay, what do I have? What am I going to create? So it's quite literal for that one. Funny. All right, so now we're going to Scorpio and Scorpio rising. What's up, Scorpio? Kind of personal for you too. You're getting a lot of conjunctions, huh? You're like the one who's like kind of filling everything out. You're going to see Mercury going into Aquarius, forming a Cazimi in your 4th house. Obviously, if you are a Scorpio, 0 to 5 degrees, you're feeling the square. So just hang in there. But I think that you get a little bit of a power up period. All these planets are meeting with you. So you might feel like there's all of these things that are now suddenly coming to an end, or there's all of these big decisions that you have to make about your home or your living situation, and maybe make some change or alteration to your plans when it comes to your home or your family. And it feels scary, but it's also like you're getting the word here. So Scorpio, Mercury rules your 8th house, which is a friendly house for you because it's very familiar. It does deal with all of the things that change and transform, secrets, intimacy, joint resources, taxes, anything that deals with loans, debt, inheritance even, and your partner's money. Now, it also has a connection to your goals or anything that deals with your friends, your social connections, and your networks. So as Mercury goes into your 4th house, we may assume that there's going to be more conversations about future goals, future family get-togethers, cost of that, changes with your home, maybe reviewing documents connected to home taxes or mortgages. It could also mean that there is a discussion about an investment in a property or a serious conversation that you're having involving a parent or a sibling. Now, Scorpio, I think that all in all, there can be a lot of really great innovative ideas about emotional security that can come up for you. This is really about releasing family perfectionism as it's tied to the South Node in the 11th. So it means that you have to be less focused on what everybody else is doing, you know, and South Node and Virgo in the 11th house might mean people are working different jobs than you. People have different kind of systems or ways that they view, you know, home or family. You also might find that other people are a little bit more focused on perfection when in reality, you want freedom. So you're not necessarily focused on the big house. You're not necessarily focused on all of the wealth. You're going, how can I have something that's going to provide freedom for me and my family for generations? Because Aquarius is way into the future. So in order to better understand that, we have to really look at the Mercury, Sun, and Pluto. So you're kind of putting your head together with your family or with a partner or maybe with your family to talk about how you can bring everything kind of at home into one space. And at some point throughout this transit, you are going to see that there will be a Mercury-Pluto conjunction. So it's about an important conversation you're going to have, or a document, or some kind of news about a loan, an inheritance, or taxes. And then you will see Mercury come into a square with Uranus in your 7th house. Now, Uranus rules your 7th house of home and family, so it can mean that there is some uncomfortable conversations you have to have with your family or your roommates about your relationship. It could also mean that some of the changes that are happening with the organization or the plans at home is putting a lot of pressure on a partner. So if you're committed, it could represent some clash that you're having in a relationship about, well, do we live here? Do we move? You know, do we buy or do we rent? Do we sell or do we renovate? And you have to be mindful of how you're communicating with partners and family towards the ends of this transit, further highlighting what will be kind of coming with Mars, your other ruler, meeting planet, meeting Pluto, Mars squaring, you know, Uranus, and there's going to be a lot of change on the home front. So you're going to have to work with other people as you go through this period, January into February, also when we're having the eclipse. I think this is also about just, like I said, focusing on releasing family perfectionism, deep transformation happening within your private life. This requires you to be really real about what you need and not following kind of what other people are doing, not trying to keep up with the Joneses. Good luck, Scorpio. Very interesting transits for you. Sag and Sag rising, you guys are going to have the Mercury and Aquarius transit, also Mercury Cazimi happening in your natal 3rd house. Pretty friendly for the fire signs. It's sextiling you by sign Sag, especially if you have early degrees, so it's not going to be as challenging for some of you guys. Obviously, Mercury has a connection and a correlation to your 10th house of career, reputation, your professional life, and also your purpose, as well as your 7th house of relationships, partnerships, clients, allies. And you're going to see the Mercury Cazimi, where the Sun and Mercury are going to align in the 3rd house. So I could definitely see some Sag and Sag risings that are either, making a change with a vehicle. Maybe they're signing a contract that is about like a business partnership or something that's like marital license or something like that through the connection to your 7th. Maybe you're going on a long distance trip with a sibling or with a partner. Maybe you're discussing moving. And as we see Mercury go through this house, it's going to be coming into conjunction with Pluto, and there will be a Cazimi. So there's almost like needing to have conversations about things you've been thinking about just to kind of get it out in the open and have a better understanding of where you see yourself going with a partner. So it can be a defining relationship conversation. It can be a heart-to-heart with a sibling. It might mean that you are getting serious about getting ready to launch some kind of like media where you can bring in new clients, or maybe you're making an announcement about a change in your career or your relationship. But I'm expecting a lot of mental buzz and a huge fixation on how you're communicating. Just watch your words, Sag, watch your words, because certainly with Mercury and Pluto and the Sun, things can really bite. But I do think that if you're using this appropriately, it can be brilliant for writing and speaking. You can be very persuasive. You can get a lot of traction online, especially if you're involved in media. The key here is Pluto rules your 12th house. So you have to kind of release this feeling of being obsessed with talking about something. So obsessed with relationships, obsessed with traveling. You could also find that you're letting these obsessions or fixations about what's kind of going on in the world getting the best of you. And it can bring some kind of like negative kind of thought clouds. So keep things light, release overthinking in partnerships, lighten the tone a little bit, and focus on finding your voice. And that is where you're going to have the most power in conversations. Good luck, Sag. Oh, one other thing. That square to Uranus means that this is really highlighting your lungs, your breathing, your driving, anything to do also with like technology, pushing you to evolve and innovate either your health or something about your habits and your daily routine. So like, are you listening to negative media? Are you focusing too much on what people are saying on socials? Like, is it healthy for you to go through like an unplugged day or a detox day? Are you finding that it's helping stabilize your nervous system? Are you learning about the power of manifestation and thought and how it can actually change your physical reality, right? Watch when those planets, especially like Mercury, and the sun starts squaring Uranus, because it is going to bring this need to make a dramatic change with your health and your routine. All right, we've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You guys are going to be seeing a Mercury and Aquarius transit going through your second house of income, self-esteem, resources, money. It will be Cazimi and conjunct Pluto. Mercury deals with legal matters, higher education, travel, mentors, teachers, anything to do with your philosophy, as well as health habits and work or pets. So obviously your mind is on your money, Capricorn, as Mercury is going through the second house. I do think that something that I would really kind of focus on with the Cazimi taking place is this kind of rethinking or re-evaluating what is mine versus what is owed to me, right? What am I spending on? What am I getting in return? So there can be a lot of tax stuff going on. I think a lot of Capricorn and Cap risings are finding like, oh, you know, I'm like the way that I'm doing my taxes and my accounting, like I'm doing it to get the most money back. A lot of you guys are going to see some good money stuff going on this year as Jupiter goes into your 8th house as well. So I do think that you're going to be seeing a bit of abundance that's coming in through the summer. But Mercury is really kind of saying to you, how much money am I willing to invest in legal matters or travel or education? How much am I investing in my health? I think this is about finding new innovative ways to kind of earn or spend. So some of you guys might be learning about or tinkering with the idea of tech or AI investments, tech stocks, anything connected to crypto. And this is also about releasing, I think, workaholic tendencies because of the South Node in Virgo. So you're like, well, I'm so used to like, you know, traveling or like learning or studying or, you know, publishing, that you want to make money in a way that's going to be more easily, I think, available, and something that may be coming in a digital fashion. So some of you guys might say, well, you know, is it time for me to be teaching from home? Is it time for me to finally write that book? It's all playing off of Uranus, which is in your 5th, which eventually it will square. So it is going to be highlighting where you have to really invest in your dreams or some kind of creative endeavor or creative business. I see a lot of Cap and Cap risings getting involved in like cooking or things that are connected to Taurus. So the beauty industry, flowers, things that are connected to building, anything that deals with art. Particularly digital art is something that might come up for a lot of Capricorn and Capricorn risings, or any kind of like digital transaction, you know, related things. I feel like if you guys are open to transforming your financial mindset, you're setting yourself up in a really great way where, you know, I think risks will potentially pay off. It's just about kind of being more comfortable with diversifying some of your assets and maybe not looking at things in such a traditional kind of way of investing. Be willing to take risks because they could actually yield quite big rewards. Now, eventually we will see Mercury square Uranus, so it's really going to test your beliefs about money, and I think that could be pretty big. I also think with like the Cazimi, it's really kind of highlighting where you're willing to dig into what you have and what you've saved and put it into some things that could be a little speculative. So it'll be interesting to see how that manifests for you guys. Good luck. Aquarius and Aquarius risings, yet another prediction for all of these Pluto connections that are happening in your chart. So do let me know what's playing out in your life. I've got a good friend of mine who's an Aquarius rising. She's another astrologer, and I've been messaging her, and I'm like, how's your life going? Like, you looking at those transits in January? And she's like, oh my God, I'm under a pressure cooker. The Cazimi is going to be really big for you, Aquarius, because I think that this might be the turning point where you start to kind of recognize and realize just exactly what is changing in regards to a relationship. And I don't know if it means it's going to be a relationship to yourself, because it's in your own sign, right? Mercury conjunct the sun represents relationships. And where there is a need to transform the relationship with yourself, if you want to better connect with other people, maybe I think with Mercury's connection to the 5th house of love, joy, and creativity, there is this realization that you are coming into a brand new creative phase. And like, yes, it can feel scary as planets come into conjunction with Pluto, but you're going to probably admit or acknowledge something to yourself or have this kind of channeled information that's like, yes, everything is about to change, and everything that's going to change feels like it's scary and like the rug is being pulled out from underneath you. But what if this is like the most amazing adventure that is about to begin? I think so. I really do. For you guys, it's transiting your first house. So this is your personality and your identity and your voice that's getting an upgrade. So it's about presenting the future version of yourself. And we know as planets come into conjunction with Pluto, something is still dying off. So I recognize that there is still some fear of, oh, I'm walking away from an old career, or I'm retiring, or I'm selling my business, or I'm leaving my partner, or, I'm going into a new phase. And it's okay to still be going through that purification phase. It's going to take a little bit until Mars leaves. But I think with the connection to your 5th house, it's opening the door to more fun, joy, potentially expanding your family, falling in love, getting serious about being creative. I mean, really embracing spontaneity, especially as we're getting ready to see Uranus, your modern day ruler, go into that sign in your 5th house in the spring. I think that if this is really about focusing more on releasing who you've been and embracing this new version of yourself and really being in good relationship with yourself, it can only enhance relationships there forward, because the sun rules relationships. Can this be a day that you meet somebody very prominent? Can this be a day where people are saying to you, wow, you've changed, or you look different, or everything, something about you is different? And a lot of it's going to be energetic. It's not necessarily going to be physical, but people might start recognizing you, giving you some kind of compliment, or recognizing where you have changed in some way. I think that with the Cazimi, with the Sun and Mercury, it's going to be people who are going to be like, oh, I'm in love. Like, they're just like crazy about you. So if you're a single Aquarius rising, it could be that. It could also be with the Sun Mercury conjunction. Some Aquarius and Aquarius risings are going to be finding out very soon that they are pregnant. And they may be having a feeling that that's the case, and they may not know until closer to the eclipse, which is going to be about a month from now. Anyway, release those old mental habits. Embrace the Cazimi as this kind of life-changing transit that's going to really transform how you think about yourself, how you talk about yourself, and then you're going to see some of the transformation unfold next month. Very big for you guys. The square to Uranus too is like you're changing, and that means you're outgrowing something, either emotionally or about your home and family. So a lot of you guys are going to go, guess what, fam, we're picking up and moving, or you're going to realize like it's time to get out of the house, or I thought I wanted to stay here, but actually it turns out we're going to be going somewhere else, and it's going to cause some foundational shakes and quakes, but it is what it is. You guys will figure that out. I'm not worried about it. All right, we've finally got Pisces and Pisces risings, where a lot of this stuff, thank goddess, is going to be pretty behind the scenes and subconscious for you guys. I would say, especially for my Pisces and Pisces risings, this is going to be very much impacting your dreams. There's going to be some dreams or some things that you see in meditation. There can be some like weird ancestor connection where like, grandma comes to visit you, or you have a dream about a deceased pet, or maybe it means that you recognize finally that there's some karma that is being cleared in a relationship. Because Mercury, the connection to the 6th house, where the South Node is, where you're dealing with old relationship karma, is getting cycled out. Now, Mercury is also tied to your 4th house of family, but it's also about ends of situations. So it might mean that, you have a dream where you're like, oh my gosh, I saw that I left my partner and I moved to this other city, or I had this feeling that my partner was going to leave, and then, that I was going to move somewhere new. These things can happen. And it's also about kind of clearing any like anxiety or stress that you have about changes with your home and your relationships in a meditative state. Now, when Mercury meets with the Sun, it's basically helping you get more insight into your health and your habits or scheduling. And you're only going to be able to do that through meditation or sleep. Keep in mind the 12th house is subconscious, it is behind the scenes. It could also represent hospitals, isolation, private places, temples, church. So it may be a good idea to really get some alone time to really channel some of this energy and make sure that you're kind of in the vibrational state to receive it. So I like the idea of like sound bowl meditations and binaural beats before you guys go to bed. So that way you are vibrating high so you can get the messages about what direction you're going in when it comes to relationships and also your home. Now, this is a very spiritual house, so watch for some of the insights that come through. It's possible that you are recognizing that you're kind of having to either release partnerships or partnership criticism. This is also about transforming your dreams or spiritual communication. And when Sun and Pluto come into conjunction, I think it's going to be about releasing unhealthy habits in love And then when Mercury comes into a square with Uranus, it's going to be about how to better kind of communicate and express what it is that you need in relationships and how to better find the words. Good luck, Pisces. Definitely a little bit easier for you guys, that's for sure. I was laughing at your comments where like a lot of the Pisces risings were like, yeah, when planets go through the 12th house in Aquarius, it's like, oh, this is what we're doing today. Or like, you know, the world's crazy and you guys are just kind of like watching. So it won't be as impactful for you guys, but it's definitely going to be impacting, I think, the way that you kind of are able to intuit some of the things that are coming and like learning not to let that kind of throw you off course or worry you when it comes to your plans or even where you're traveling, where you're moving, all that fun stuff. All right, well, that is the full download for Mercury in Aquarius for January and February, and that bold Mercury Cazimi. Obviously, it's mentally electric. This is a transformative transit that's really pushing us all towards collective evolution. So embrace the genius over the next couple of weeks, release the old, and step into the future. If this resonated with you, let me know your rising sign. Drop it below. Wait until these transits kind of play out so you guys can kind of see how my predictions kind of manifest. They're pretty intense, so we'll see. Hopefully it's some of the positive kind of energies, but it's hard to say with Mars and Pluto being involved. So let me know how you guys are feeling with this energy. What do you see? How does Mercury come through during the Cazimi for you around the 20th? Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up if you like this. Make sure you click that bell button so you can see more of my videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays where I'm here trying to make sense of what's going on in the cosmos. And I will be here live tomorrow on Friday, 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. That's 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. Come hang out with me. I'm going to be doing new moon in Capricorn readings, talking about the most powerful new moon so far. I guess really it's the first one of the year, but it's a great new moon with trines to Uranus and sextiles to Saturn. So if you have questions about what this means for you or your natal chart or synastry charts, come and hang out with me, get a reading, check out my community tab. I'll post that so you guys can get in the queue if you want to ask me questions about your astrology. Now, if you guys want to study astrology with me, I've got my Astro 301 program starting at the end of the month. I only have a few spots left, but if you guys want to join and learn my mastering techniques in astrology, click the links below, head over to beyondtheveiltarot.com, go to my courses page. You can see my full course syllabus. We're going to meet for 8 weeks. It's going to be live over Zoom, and I'm going to teach you guys everything I know in predictive astrology. Everything all the way up to starting your guys' own astrological business. So check that out on my astro calendars and everything else I've got there. Sign up for the newsletter while you're there. I won't spam you. And enjoy this Mercury Cazimi, guys. I'll see you very soon. Take care.